What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, Joker back again, once again, and we continue our saga of Are You Fluff and or Kitten Me Right Meow? Is Destiny actually getting better? Also known as Gasp, Shock, Horror, Lightning Crackle, Lightning Crackle, Lightning Crackle. Is Bungie actually listening? Our latest information, of course, is brought to us by the latest weekly update, which gives us a preview of things to come in Season 14. Season 14, with changes like Transmog on the way, is looking like Season of the Quality of Life changes, plus Vault of Glass. And honestly, that's just fine with me because certainly we needed it. But I'm gonna go ahead and skip the further ado and just dive right into the meat and potatoes. Gear up. With the return of Ada 1 to the tower in Season 14, we are introducing some small quality of life upgrades to a couple of the tower vendors. First, in addition to being the primary vendor associated with the upcoming transmog system, also known as armor synthesis, Ada 1 will become the vendor who delivers a variety of armor-focused items and upgrades. Each day, Ada 1 will now sell one randomly chosen armor mod from the general and armor slot, helmet, gauntlets, etc., and one randomly chosen combat style armor mod, chosen from the Charge Light and Warmind Cell mod groups, which should make it easier for players who missed these in the past to get their hands on some of the armor mods from Year 3. Additionally, on a weekly basis, Ada 1 will sell one armor set randomly chosen from the World Loot pool, with stat rolls that also change on a weekly basis. Finally, Ada 1 will also sell armor upgrade materials, upgrade modules, enhancement prisms, and descended shards, in the same way that Banshee 44 does right now. Alrighty then, not really much to say here about the mods, that's kind of self-explanatory. It is awesome that the mod pool will be divided between Banshee and Ada 1. Banshee will have weapon mods, Ada will have armor mods, making it easier to get mods that you've missed out on. On top of that, with Ada having a set of rotating armor, there's a possibility that one day she will have a statistically statted god roll set of armor, or piece of armor. Probably more likely a piece of armor. I mean, I guess technically speaking, the upper statistical limit that these pieces of armor can roll could be capped, but at that point, what's the point? Sure, you might not have a piece of armor that you want for transmog, and so I guess this allows you to buy it, make up for lost time, but honestly, there's no point in selling armor if you can't get god-rolled armor. So I hope they give us god-rolled armor, at least the potential, because it's more the potential that I care about than actually getting it, if that makes sense. But moving forward, with Ada taking on armor responsibilities, Banshee 44 is getting a few revisions in his inventory as well. The Gunsmith will no longer sell armor mods, but will retain the rest of the items that he currently sells. Additionally, on a weekly basis, Banshee 44 will sell a selection of 6 weapons randomly chosen from the weapons in the World Loot pool. 2 weapons each from the Kinetic, Energy, and Power slot, with perk rolls on each weapon that are randomly determined at the start of the week. So at each weekly reset, when you log in, you can head to the tower and see what the Gunsmith is selling, and maybe pick up a weapon you've been looking for with a roll that you're excited to use. Now, this is super exciting because it is something that players have been asking for since basically the start of Destiny 2. So, because every video is somebody's first, back in Destiny 1, not only did we get vendor refreshes at the start of every DLC, meaning one new set of armor and one new set of weapons for each and every vendor, but towards the end of Destiny 1's life cycle, Bungie said, let's go ahead and make it to where each week when you log in, the loot that's already there will have its perks re-rolled every week. Now, of course, this didn't mean a vendor full of god rolls all the time. But sometimes they would have an interesting roll that you just might want to try out. And when they did have god rolls, it was always an event. But moving forward, last one standing. We have received some feedback on perks like Celerity and Bottomless Grief from players asking that they be added as intrinsic bonuses to Adept weapons. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. It's because they fucking suck. Weapons feature lead Chris Proctor is here to share some of our philosophy on these perks and a few changes we're planning. When we launched Trials of Osiris, we made a new origin-specific perk for Trials weapons, Celerity. This is a wildly powerful perk, plus 100 aim assistance, handling, and reload, plus reduced recoil and spread. This perk is nothing to sneeze at, with very low uptime. Is it though? Is it though? Is it though? I mean, come on, like, let's think about it. Most weapons in Destiny already have a ludicrous amount of aim assist. On top of that, PC doesn't account for aim assist outside of bullet magnetism. That's an oversimplification, but basically. Handling and reload, okay, plus reduced recoil, okay, all on one perk, okay, but at the same time, that's only some of the time. So you're gonna have a weapon that, when you need to clutch engagements, functions wildly different than it normally does 99.9999999% of the time. Saying Celerity is a wildly powerful perk is like saying, yeah, Exodia is a wildly powerful Yu-Gi-Oh card set. Like, okay, have fun when it works. But I digress. We intended this to be great for clutch, Last Guardian Standing plays, in Trials specifically. And when it's active, it's very strong. But we found that a trigger condition that relies on failure generally feels pretty bad, and the power that it grants doesn't negate that feeling. Players never like betting against themselves or their team. Not only that, but the perk is useless outside of Trials and a couple of other activities. I'm not saying you should have figured this out with Vigilance Wing, I'm just saying you probably should have figured this out with Vigilance Wing. Now, Vigilance Wing gets a pass because of its functionality, it's a good weapon. However, nobody's using Vigilance Wing for its exotic perk. Side note, the Deepstone Crypt Origin perks were well received, so while Celerity specifically doesn't hit the mark, the idea still has legs. Well, yeah, of course it does. Decently powerful perks put in a specific playlist that you have to keep playing that playlist and or activity to get, that's always going to be fun. It just sucks when they suck. In Beyond Light, we introduced Adept weapons to Trials, wanting to try out a new system for aspirational weapons in a small set before rolling them out more broadly. We had 3 goals for Adept weapons. Give players a tangible reward to aspire towards with custom visuals and a unique name, letting them flex a little. Give players who earned an Adept weapon a minor power boost and some gameplay customization options, in the form of improved masterwork granting +3 to all other stats and the ability to equip Adept mods. Don't make players who can't earn these weapons feel like they're not competing with players who have them. Cough, not forgotten, cough. I actually disagree with that analogy because it only took 2200 to get Luna's Howl, and Luna's Howl could compete with Not Forgotten. If Bungie really cared about the difference there, they probably would have changed some of the stats around. That would have balanced it out far better than nerfing them into the ground. You know, and then making auto rifles damn near as good, you know, season or 2 later. But hey, whose details and why are we fucking them? We've all seen your suggestions to make Celerity and Bottomless Grief intrinsic to Trials and Nightfall weapons, or only the Adept versions. I wanted to touch on this idea. Thematically, that is a cool idea, and adds to the flavor that these perks can give their sources. But there are 3 problems. For performance reasons, we have a maximum number of perks that can run on a character at a time. Legendary weapons have a threshold per weapon, and many of them are right at the limit. Adding a perk on top of that without taking one away causes bad things to happen, in the form of random parts of perks turning off. Yeah, I could see where that would be a bad thing. Adding a new perk column to weapons for specific sources introduces power creep, and pretty soon we'd end up having to do the same to weapons from other sources. Adding a new perk column to only Adept weapons would work against the 3rd goal of Adept weapons, and we believe would feel bad for players dying to Adept weapons that are able to stack Celerity with things like Outlaw and Rampage. In Season 14, we're making the following changes to Trials and Nightfall weapons and their Adept versions. Note, this only applies to new drops of the weapons, not previous drops. Nightfall weapons. Bottomless Grief grants a permanently active +30 to magazine. Bottomless Grief is now a fixed alternate perk in the left column on Adept drops of Nightfall weapons, i.e. you can switch between that and the randomly rolled perk in the inspection screen. Trials weapons. Celerity grants a permanently active +20 to both reload and handling. Celerity is now a fixed alternate perk in the right column on Adept drops of Trials weapons, i.e. you can switch between that and the randomly rolled perk on the inspection screen. Moving forward, we're not done with Origin perks, and hope to have something that better achieves our goals in a future release. Okay, cool. My issue with perks like Bottomless Grief and Celerity, even after these changes, still boils down to it's a perk that works some of the time versus perks that work all of the time. Why in the Traveler's blown out asshole would I ever use Celerity over Rampage on an Igneous Hammer? You see my problem? Again, not really much to say here, but all in all, the takeaway from all of this should be that the creative team in charge of Destiny seems to at the very least have their ear to the ground when it comes to listening to the community, at least as of now. Some of these fixes and changes are years in the waiting, while others merely months. And hey, that's a better than usual turnaround for Bungie, so applause. Sarcasm aside, I really do hope that Bungie continues to add features like this and are quick coming up with solutions to issues like underperforming perks in the future, like they are here. Because if they can keep that up, Destiny will be in a great place come Witch Queen. But ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Remember to like, but only if you did. Subscribe for more. Feel free to donate to my Patreon if you're feeling particularly generous. But above all else, stay frosty.